Hi everyone. Hi everyone. I don't know whether there's anybody out there or not watching this. I'm doing a little test here, so I would appreciate anybody who happens to be sort of out in the world who might be watching this just to stop by and say hello. Um, I'm in Santa Barbara here, and this is Ellie Jacobson, and hi everyone. I am just I have not live streamed in a long time, and YouTube has tightened up its security, and OBS software has changed a little bit. So I'm not 100% sure of everything that's going on, but let me know that you are getting my video. I'm not sure that the video is playing. So let's just see. I think you can see me, but let's share this. I'm going to share this. So let's go to X and just post this. Hi everyone, I am doing an ad hoc live stream now, testing some things. Please stop by and say hi. And I'm going to make sure that no one can reply to that. So yeah, I want to make sure that the stream is working and that you are getting this. And yeah, so hi, GMH, hello. Can you hear me? Just wave or say something that you can hear me. And that'll make me feel better, like I am actually, everything is working. So let me know. Can you hear me? GMH. I don't know who GMH is. I'm here, he says. Hello. That's great. I'm glad to have you here. I'm going to take a little sip. So, know if you can hear and see me. So, yeah, I am not exactly sure how this is working. I think that I have it open twice is the problem. Let's just double check that. Please let me know. Oh, great. Thank you so much. That helps a lot. So believe it or not, my weird intention today is to chat with y'all, and at the same time that I'm chatting, I want to also, I'm just sorry, everyone. I'm mixing it up. I'm going to do this right now. There we go. All right, everyone. That's what I wanted. I'm going to just stop with that right there, and so hopefully y'all can see me. And I'm going to play some chess and chat about anything you want to chat about along the way. So this is a new experience for me. Not exactly sure whether I can do this, but let's just chat a minute. Yeah, thank Nell. Yeah, no, I am definitely new to live streaming. I've done a bit of it a couple years ago, right at the start of sort of COVID, when I didn't have much else to do every day. But it's been at least, well, the last live stream I did, believe it or not, was June 20th of last year. So a year and a few days. All right, tell us about the three kinds of chess players. Well, yeah, avian and loaded. Yeah, no, there are three kinds of chess players. Let's see, there's the chess players who just think they know everything and won't listen to the experts. And of course, there's the chess players who are just too frightened to just read anything at all, or you just don't even want? Yeah, no. In case you don't know, he's Avian and Loaded is referring to the three types of doomers that were posted to the Guardian article by. Keep on wanting to say Guinevere. Gunther, Dr. Gunther. Genevieve. Right, that's it. So, yeah, I don't write very much because it's sort of like when I write, it's the sort of all-consuming few minutes, hours of my life where everything disappears and that's all I'm doing. And it is very intense. And I have to spend a couple days being sort of upset about something and it's, but eventually it comes out and I tweak it and it's like, oh good, I'm glad I wrote that. I should write more, but then it's just hard. But I did end up buying the doctor's book, which is interesting because her book, I just bought it yesterday on Amazon. Her book, I was going to buy it a year ago, but it was like $30. And now a brand new copy on Amazon is like $11 or $12. So whatever that is. So yeah, hey everyone, thanks for being here. And like I say, I am just going to play a bit of chess and we're going to see if this works. So if there's any problems with any of this as a test stream, just please let me know because I definitely want to be able to chat and play chess at the same time. I am notoriously bad at multitasking. Hello, Bill. I think that there's probably a delay of about 30 seconds or maybe a minute between what you chat and me seeing it. I don't know why there is that delay, but I think it's a video delay. Maybe YouTube has something where they don't want what I say or when people live stream to be an immediate, they want to give that time and space to, I don't know. Here, I'm going to play a 1-1 game and let's just start a game. So I used to be very good at chess, let's say 40 years ago, and now I'm not as good anymore. I mean, one thing, I'm older, and also it's just harder to play. Yeah, so I know what this person is doing. This is one of these sort of modern new ways of playing that people like to do where they want to block up the center and it's actually a pretty good strategy. I'm not very good at playing against it, but I'm going to try. Look, I just lost my knight. All right, so no. This is time to resign this game. So maybe I'm not so good at playing online and talking and playing at the same time. Let's do it again. All right, let's play another game. Here goes. Can you see these games all right? Is this working for you? These games? I promise I'll play better this time. Well, no guarantee. Oh, look, I'm up a pawn, but it's a very dangerous position for me here. So I have lost many times from this position in particular. So yeah, what's on your mind, Doomers? Assuming you're all Doomers who are visiting me today. Or maybe you're not Doomers. Maybe you're somewhere in between. But I am definitely noticing a big difference in terms of the types of communication that are taking place right now. Let's just go for checkmate. You never know. We could get lucky. Oh no, that was close. I think I should castle, don't you? Yeah, he's going to put his knight right here, but yeah. Oh, I don't know. Let's just go here and protect our bishop so I can push my little pawnee. Paying a little more attention this time than I did last time. but it is fully possible I could just sort of get it all wrong. Bishop takes bishop. What do you think? All right, that works for me. This all works for me. Let's go here. And I'm just thinking we have an extra pawn. Let's get rid of his bishop. Oops, I lost on time. Oh no! Oh no! All right, enough multitasking. Let's chat for a bit. So, whoa, that was tough. Hopefully I didn't lose everybody there. So let's just chat. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can do this. Ah, look at me. So yeah, what's on your mind? I wanted to just, other than just testing this, I want to maybe do this a little bit more later today. But I think what is absolutely true right now is that the doomer community is being kind of silenced. I don't know. Its voice has become very small compared to just a couple of years ago. When we had Gail Zawacki, you have to look her up if you don't know who she is around, and Michael Dowd, and Sam Mitchell was every single day doing, reading an article, and Sandy Shulis, her YouTube account, the Environmental Coffee House wasn't shut down, right? When we had James Lovelock still around, it felt like there was a huge voice in this group. And sort of concurrent with that, we had sort of a spike in methane and a spike in global surface temperatures and a spike in sea surface temperatures. And so everything came together at about the same time. David Wallace Wells, wrote his book, The Uninhabitable Earth, that kind of pushed the limits of speculation. And I think somehow you could be a doomer and feel like you were part of this community. And now it's really hard to find people writing original things about being a doomer, right? It's hard to find new thinking about this topic. One, because things are not super extreme on the climate front right now in terms of the variables we track. Sure, the Gulf of Mexico sea surface temperature is at an all-time high, but things are not as crazy as they've been. And also, we've just lost all these voices. So there is this sort of loss of family feeling that I have personally with being a doomer. And I don't know whether you can relate to that or not, but we had the book Bright Green Lies by Derek Jensen, and it felt like we were tackling this sort of hopeism, right? Doomism, hopeism, or should it be hoperism? We're just tackling it, and now we're just kind of I don't know how to fix this problem. So GMH says, thoughts on how ecological collapse will infiltrate into the forefront of society's consciousness. I think it will be insurance industry. So GMH, that question is really important. Dana Fisher wrote this book called Saving Ourselves. The whole point of the book was this idea that if things got bad enough, that people would suddenly wake up and come to their senses, and suddenly there'd be this thing she called the anthro shift, where we would take collective action globally, like on a large first world countries would step up, in a big way, And this idea of the anthro shift, she based it on kind of the social change that happened right at the beginning of COVID, when we were all willing to stay indoors and mask up, and there was this huge movement to be safe, to protect ourselves. And that's kind of what you're asking, is when is it going to infiltrate into our consciousness? Well, it's just not. I mean, that's the crazy thing. It's not going to infiltrate. It's not going to happen. There's not going to be a time when society wakes up, or civilization wakes up and it says, "Oh shit! Look what we did to the planet. We've got to fix this." That is not happening, and we're just going to have more and more. Is this going to get worse and worse, right? And depending on where you live, it could get really bad very quickly. I mean, if you happen to be in China, in a city of a few million that's underwater, or you happen to be, in a train that gets stuck in a tunnel in Baltimore, in a heat wave for an hour, right? So yeah, it's a great question, and certainly prices going up, for example, or the lack of getting insurance is going to be one of those things that's going to hit people very hard. I mean, where I live personally here in Santa Barbara, you know what? Hang on, guys, just a second. What I want to do is to also share this stream on my my Blue Sky account. So for a brief live stream and test. So I am also posting this to my my Bluetooth account. Did I just really say that? My Bluetooth account. Okay, I think something just got screwed up with the video you're seeing. This is just crazy. All right, are you still seeing this? And did my video just get screwed up? If so, what I'm going to do is have to fix that video. I think what you're seeing now is my green screen off to one side, and that's not exactly what I want. All right, hang on here. Yeah, but you probably just see the video with GMH. You probably just see the video with like half of me in there. I think what I have to do is to go to configure video and to go here and to do a zoom. Okay, I think that should be better. All right. Well, at any rate, good. Now I'm good in a different way now than I was before. So yeah, it's called normalcy bias. Look that up. It's this idea that whatever we're experiencing now is what's normal, right? It's this inability to sort of distinguish that events are really as crazy as they are. And you might even find yourself thinking, wow, maybe that thing Trump did was a good idea. It's like that's the type of crazy making times we're living in right now. So I don't know. I'm very sort of saddened by the way this community has been marginalized of doomers and has lost its voice. And so I was thinking of trying to get together more, just have a stronger online presence myself, I guess, or maybe I could step up and figure out how to do some interviews of some other doomers, have like a little doomer YouTube channel or doomer live streams. I really don't want I don't know how to say it, bullshit. I don't want bullshit. I was on I was on this climate chat channel, and the very first time I was on, the conversation was about doomers, right? And it was one of Dan Miller's most viewed segments. And so he invited me back, and he said to me before the show that we should just not talk about doom stuff. It's not wanting me to talk about doom was kind of like a little, just a little challenging for me, because that's how I was on CNN, and they said the same thing to me on there. It's like, look, we want to talk about X, Y, or Z. That's who you are. We don't really want. So, people don't want you to talk about the thing you want to talk about. And that is, I don't know. I want to talk about this, but I don't know how. I would love to have guests on a show, or have a community where we are talking. I know there are there are some on Facebook. There is a near-term human extinction group. They kicked me off, by the way. I'll tell you that story maybe if you ask. On Reddit, there is r/collapse. There on X, you can find one of these, I don't know, what do they call them? These things that you can listen in, Collapse Club. There are some groups that get together. They're sort of, you can join in and in a sort of a smallish group. What was her name? Catherine Ingram used to host those once a month. And I went to a couple of those. So, it's not entirely, we are not entirely without a voice or a presence, but somehow right at this moment, I'm feeling it more. Let's see what else we have to say. Are rapid AI advances giving hope, possibly false hope? Just watched a Must Talk, and he seems relatively optimistic. Anna, is AI giving hope? I don't know really what that means. Hope for what? Hope for a faster collapse, possibly. It's certainly not going to do anything but consume more and more power. There was an article today I just posted as my moment of doom that showed that alternative energy sources, whether it's wind or solar or hydro or whatever, is generating more than ever. We are generating more electricity than ever, and fossil fuels use continues to rise. So what we are not seeing is any of these sort of green energy sources reducing total CO2. Now, China may be right at peak CO2. There's some talk about peak CO2, but I track CO2, the rise of it every month. I put out a graph on my social media. And as far as I can tell, we are at a record rate of CO2. And now there are feedback loops. There are fires creating CO2. There are changes in land use that are turning sinks into sources. And I don't see any near-term way that AI is going to change the basic physics that's going on this planet, which is that humans are going to continue to use more energy and create more pollutants. So as far as I can tell, yeah, it's kind of screwed up. So let's see, anybody else have anything to say? But so Graham Nash says it's not just marginalized, but it's criminalized in the UK to be a climate activist. I know this is the craziest thing. What happened to Roger Hallam? Just for having a Zoom session discussing the possibility of an action, right? 5 years was the sentence. It was reduced to 4 on appeal, but still just absolutely crazy. And I mean, one of the most amazing things, I was listening to this interview by Rachel Donald of Hannah Ritchie. If you don't know who Rachel Donald is, one of the most brilliant journalists, climate journalists on the planet, has a podcast. You have to listen to her. She really takes people to task who don't know what they're talking about. And so she asked Hannah Ritchie for a definition of doomer. And, I think Hannah Ritchie gave a reasonable definition. I mean, of course, there are as I have argued many times, there's no one definition of doomer. But Hannah was like people who don't think that modern industrial civilization is going to survive, right? I mean, yeah, at its face, that's the easiest definition. But survivalists fit into that too, so it doesn't really distinguish doomers from a lot of other groups. But at any rate, Rachel Donald then asked Hannah Ritchie the obvious question: name a doomer. And I want Genevieve Gunther to answer this question, and I want what's her name, Catherine Hayhoe, to answer this question, and Michael Mann to, name the doomers, right? Name the doomers. Well, Michael Mann names David Wallace Wells and Guy McPherson, right, as doomers. So fine. I don't think David Wallace Wells is. He wrote a book that exaggerated the impacts of climate change quite a bit, but that doesn't necessarily make him a doomer. Michael Mann named a couple. I don't know any that Catherine Hayhoe has mentioned. Maybe she mentioned Guy McPherson, but put to the task, Hannah Ritchie, of all the people on the planet, named, I mean, this is in this interview, she named Roger Hallam as a doomer, right? Roger Hallam. And I'm thinking, this guy is doing everything possible. Everything. Like, he has devoted his life to trying to save this planet. I mean, he has put his life on the line trying to save humanity from itself, to the extent that he's in prison for years, right? I mean, he is the opposite of a doomer. He is an activist. He's somebody who believes that action can possibly create results. And he's just saying, what action? And the action to him is revolution. And who could disagree with that, right? He wants to create a revolution. He is not a doomer, right? He is not someone who believes in this inevitability. He's one who's saying there is a way out, and here it is, and I'm going to do everything I can to get people to see that. So just the idea that this community can be marginalized with such ignorance about who the people are and what their motivations are and what they're trying to say. I mean, it's and I don't know if Genevieve Gunther can name one doomer. I mean, who's she going to name as a doomer? I see Leon Simon's posting on X and Blue Sky, and his posts are as scary and informative and knowledgeable as any you will see. And yet he will not call himself a doomer. He just wants the information to be out there that he thinks is the right information, so that people will know the truth, right? So I mean, doomer is something even bigger than all of that. So at any rate, let's see what else we're saying. So I don't know. I'm appreciating that I have a few people here today. I might do another one of these later today where I start drinking. What do you think? Should I just have some whiskey and my wife's out of town for a couple days, and I don't have anything much else to do. I mean, I don't know. What else should I do? Let's just see. So GMH says I'm coping by gardening, but then it's rained so much for 2 weeks, and then record-breaking heat killed most of your plants. I'm sorry, GMH. I guess you must be somewhere on the east coast of the U.S. is what it sounds like. My tomatoes are coming in right now, which is very nice. But what we did in the last few months at my house, because I'm in Southern California, is to fireproof my house. And what that meant was removing pretty much anything that was alive from within about 10 feet of the structure, my structure, that could possibly burn, a plant that could burn. We took out all of the mulch and everything, and replaced everything with succulents and river rock. So, it has a different look to it, a different look and feel, but it is definitely like single-minded that I'm going to lose my insurance later this year. Single-minded that we have not had a fire here in Santa Barbara of any measure that threatened property since 2010. So we're 15 years. I went for a hike in the woods close to my house yesterday, and it is just overgrown with dead brush, and that is just going to be crazy. So William Dillon, by the way, you saw him, he might still be here, has been helping me with a lot of this, and a great friend and source of information about fireproofing. So a contractor, also someone who works with or has worked with what is it, the mirror reflection framework, this idea that if we could create a lot of mirrors or white surfaces that reflect back heat, and that can help at least locally reduce temperatures. Any rate, he's on the chat. I'm not sure whether he'll hear this or not, but a shout out to you, Bill, if you are. And yeah, so that's, a lot of what I would have called our garden is gone. I had a whole feeding area that would attract all sorts of birds and actually rats and skunks and opossums and squirrels and, all types of birds. And now we're, because I've had to remove all of the brush surrounding that area due to the fire danger, now we get very few birds visiting anymore. I feel like I'm still putting out the food. You should visit. So, any rate, let's see. Gardening, yeah, definitely gardening. Funster Deluxe says, as Ian Collapse Aphorisms always calls it, in the ruins of the UK. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I mean, UK is a police state. The United States is more of a police state. Are we more of a police state than Russia or China? I don't know, but we're moving in that direction. It's brutal. All right. So let's see what else we have. So GMH will come back and drink with me later. That sounds great. So Flip de Beer does ask about the mirror project. So there's certainly something to be said for painting your roof white. One of the things we did in our house fireproofing is we replaced our 40-year-old shingles with the latest Class A fireproof shingles. And when they gave us choice of colors, each color had essentially its albedo, right? Its reflectivity number right there. So you could look at the reflectivity as in deciding what color you wanted for your shingles. And I chose the brightest shingle short of white. And the reason I did not choose white is that white gets discolored quickly. It'll get discolored by dirt and ash, it'll get discolored because of algae growth. For all sorts of reasons, white shingles are not considered long-lasting in the same way as something that might have a darker color. So went with the sort of second lightest shingle, and my understanding is that that can reduce the heat inside our house by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius on hot days, just this sort of upgrade of color, that alone. So, I mean, a tremendous impact. And, you know, there are paints, I've heard, that you can paint, you know, your roof white if you want to do that. I have a fireproof paint that I can apply to my roof that's white. If I ever want to go that rate, I actually have a 5-gallon bucket of this stuff. There was an article a few months back that talked about white roofs, and it said something about how it created local drought impacts. And I don't remember the details, but I do remember that if you had a certain size or scale of white roofs, that you would expect that would also impact the local weather. And, you know, it might drive the rain away from you and towards another area. So, I mean, it's not entirely without consequence. Now, one of the interesting calculations I did, and actually somebody from Mir verified this for me, I don't remember who it was this question. Suppose we, you know, one of the things I post each month based on the data from the Ceres satellites is the albedo, the ever lowering new record low albedo. And albedo is simply a measure of the reflectivity. We have all of this incoming solar radiation, right? Solar radiation. And then a certain percentage of that, so that's incoming shortwave, right? A certain percentage of that is reflected back into space. I mean, it actually makes it back out. And what CO2 tends to do is to block some of that, right? It acts as like bounces back. So the more CO2 we have, the less sort of makes it back out to space. And it's more complicated than that, but you know, that's a simple version. So the idea is that as the albedo goes lower, right, more of the incoming is left over to heat up the planet. So if we simply ask the question, how much of the Earth do we have to cover with mirrors in order to get back to the same reflectivity, the same albedo as the planet had in the year 2000, right? A very simple question, like how much of the planet would need to go from whatever its current albedo is, you know, 28%, 29%, how much of that would we need to cover with mirrors? And mirrors typically have albedo in the low 90%, right? They're not a perfect reflector, but they're close. So it turns out we would need to encircle the Earth at the equator with mirrors, and not just mirrors. We would actually need a band of mirrors that was 150 miles wide, 75 miles on each side of the equator. That's 150 miles wide, encircling the Earth, right, around the entire planet, because you know the night sky is not reflecting, and you know the only thing that's really giving us the best reflection is the direct light. Everything else sort of has an angle to it, and it's not as efficient. So you need essentially a 150-mile wide band of mirrors around the planet at the equator just to get us back to the reflectivity we had in the year 2000, right? Just so that we are heating at the same rate. The planet is heating at the same rate as it did 25 years ago. That's that's where we are right now. I'm just going to see what else we have. Hi, Valerie, just dropped by from Wales, UK, late to the party. Hope you're well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Boy, maybe there's like a timeout thing on this screen thing I'm doing, because from where I am, it just did its thing again. So I'm going to go to YouTube and see what happens. I'm going to see what happens when I look at my own stream. So hang on. This is a bit of a test I'm doing, y'all. So hang on. I just want to see my own stream. See what it looks like. Yeah, no. It definitely, I can see exactly what the problem is here still. So maybe if I just did this there, I'm going to just do that. Then I don't have to worry about resizing anything. All right. Seriously, joking, any chance you are familiar with Richard Krim and his Substack articles? Yes, I am. He's not a climate activist, rather a curious and very engaged individual. So, look, there are 3 people who I think get it wrong. Get it wrong. I mean, they're all doomers, and I think their intentions are good. But they tend to dramatize things. I am not a near-term human extinction person. I do not believe there will be 0 humans on the planet by 2026 or by 2030. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not that I don't think, I'll just say emphatically, that's not going to happen. It is very easy to look at data from certain periods of time and extrapolate and say, well, we are really effed. Look at that. One of those happened in the early 20-teens when you looked at Arctic sea ice, and the sea ice extent was just falling like crazy. I mean, then in 2012, we had the all-time summer minimum was 2000. That's 13 years ago, right? But if you looked at the trajectory, and there you were in 2013, and you understood blue ocean events, you might very well think that this trend was going to continue, and if it did continue, then absolutely in the next 3 to 5 years, there would be a summer with no Arctic sea ice. Of course, that didn't happen, and now some feedbacks have kicked in, and people understand sea ice much better than they used to. It's not so simple, or people who talk about the rise in methane, and you look at the period that ended in about early 2023, late 2022, right, where we just had month after month after month of record methane levels. And what is causing this spike in methane? It's not just that we have methane going up and it's reaching new records, but the rate at which it was increasing was hitting new records. And why is that? And so, people were speculating about East Siberian Arctic Sea methane, or about methane from Siberia, or whatever it is, right? Some methane bombs going off, and so over and over again. All right, so somebody's all right. I'm gonna do. Somebody wants me to do a little white balance. I'm just so bad at this stuff. I mean, color space, color range. You want me to configure video? Let's go to my saturation. Let's go to my white balance. I don't know. I just screwed it all up, didn't I? All right, I'm gonna go to my white balance. I have to take that off auto. I don't know. That's about as best I can do on white balance. Let's also go a little bit less on the saturation. I don't know. That's probably as good as I'm going to get. I'm not going to. So that's as good as you're going to get. So when you ask about Richard Krim, hi Ramona, by the way. Hi Ramona. Ramona, one of my true doomer friends. I have very few people who are some doomer friends, but a true doomer friend has joined the channel. So when you talk about Richard Krim or Guy McPherson, or what's the other person's name who has the Arctic Ocean blog, Sam Carana, These are people who I think are well-intentioned, who mostly state factual information, but who tend to look at short-term trends as worst-case scenarios. And while that one of them may eventually end up being a worst-case scenario, it certainly felt that way when we hit 2 degrees C early last year and in late 2023. You know, when one of them ends up being a worst-case scenario, well, good, you're right. But it's sort of like over and over and over again, take whatever graphic you can and turn that into a worst case scenario. And that happened recently with something Richard Krim or Sam Karana posted where they're looking at Arctic ice volume. And I was like, that's not right. You know, they're like saying, you know, Arctic sea, I should stop caring about extent. I should look at volume. So I did. I looked at volume from the Biomass website, and I started plotting it. And essentially, Arctic sea ice volume has been relatively static, the same for the last decade. You know, its low point. So it's like, why are you always trying to see the worst possible outcome in any piece of data? Not everything is going exponential. Not everything is going quadratic. There are, you know, for example, you know, we had these days that were 2.0 C early last year. If you look at the current global temperature anomaly, it is like 1.2 C, and there's a chance it may go down to 1.1 C in the next week, right? I mean, it's yeah, it's crazy how bad things can get and how quickly they can get bad. But we should not take every bad thing as evidence that humans are going to be extinct in 5 years. So that's my response to seriously joking. And again, Ramona, hi. Let's see. So Graham Nash has asked, can you talk about whether new research is saying that global warming, you get a loss of cloud albedo causing dangerous feedback? That actually was the explanation now for the record North Atlantic sea surface temperatures. I guess it was not last year, in 2023, I guess. And the idea was that there are actually fewer clouds reflecting, you know, fewer clouds just over the ocean, just fewer. And that has been, you know, fairly convincingly tied to the change in shipping fuel regulations. So, you know, you have these sulfates that create the nuclei for seeding clouds, and there you go. It's pretty direct. So I think there is not necessarily a feedback loop there that, and if there is, it's one I don't recall that right at the moment, but the idea that fewer clouds allow the water to heat up more, and over hot water, there'd be fewer clouds. I don't know how that feedback would work, but the truth is that when the water is hotter, of course, more of it's going to evaporate, and as it evaporates, it's available to create clouds. So the only real way you could have fewer clouds is if you had less stuff that allows clouds to form in the atmosphere. So yeah, not exactly sure about that one. Boy, you guys are smarter than me on some of this stuff. So Neil Salter says the reflectivity pivots on climate cloud feedback, some of the losses of which is from the degradation of rainforests and marine ecosystems with loss of cloud seeding, ocean mixing from life, and so on. I don't know how to lock the white balance. I'm going to have to figure that out. I'm just going to have to look red, okay? James said, thanks for this. I also love to play chess, by the way. So, well, okay, you love to play chess, and So let's play another game of chess. All right, this time I'm not going to talk. You're just going to have to watch unless I actually can think of something to say here. Because it's 1 minute chess, all right? It's 1 minute. So I can't think. I just have to move very quickly. And that's not fast enough. All right. I don't like how this person's playing, but let's just see if I can actually take advantage of them. So, not necessarily. I mean, people play pretty well. You know, as far as my level, I was considered an expert in my day, but now I'm kind of considered, look, he can move here and here and win my bishop, which means I have to take and do the double sack to hopefully move my queen over here and checkmate. You think I could do that? That'd be kind of fun, wouldn't it? All right, that looks like checkmate. Okay, yay me. I won a game. All right, I'm back again. William Dillon wants me to share a picture of my shingle color. I'll have to figure out how to do that. I'm not savvy enough with this OBS system yet to be able to just easily do that. Let's see. All right, seriously joking says, to be fair, I don't think Richard Krim claims near-term extinction. You know, I don't know about that in particular. I have read a couple of things that he's posted, and I'll say that again, it mostly seems completely reasonable to me, an explanation of what is going on, and then all of a sudden there's just an exaggeration, and I just don't have patience for that. So, you know, whether that's true or not, I don't know in the long run. Any guesses who Sam Krana may actually be? No, I don't. Do you have an estimate on what the aerosol masking effect is in terms of additional warming? I mean, the IPCC has posted that, and you see that kind of all over the place, right? This aerosol, and that's a big debate between Hansen and sort of the mainstream IPCC models, you know, because the greater the aerosol effect, aerosol masking, the greater the implied warming. And, you know, Hansen over and over again says, look, we have all these hot models out there that are saying that the equilibrium climate sensitivity is far greater than sort of the mainstream IPCC assumes. So maybe, you know, the IPCC is saying 3 Celsius is the implied warming from doubling CO2, and Hansen's saying, no, it's more like 4.5 to 5. Well, it turns out that, you know, these models, these satellite measurements that are tracking this number in real time are actually showing that it is probably a lot higher than the models that are being used. And in particular, you know, there's more, it seems like there's more evidence all the time that we're looking at between 4 and 5 degrees Celsius for doubling the CO2. Now we have nearly doubled the CO2. If you look at the CO2 equivalent, add all the greenhouse gases that have sort of been added to this mixture since 1750, not just CO2, but methane and nitrous oxide and all the chlorinated fluorocarbons and all the others, right? You add them all together, and I come out to about 540 parts per million. You know, pre-industrial CO2 was 280 parts per million. And so, yeah, we are almost certainly, if Hansen is correct, looking at an implied warming over 4 degrees Celsius that's already in the pipeline. And so the reason that relates to this aerosol thing is like if you say, okay, that's the implied warming, but how warm are we? And we're only this warm. And so why aren't we hotter? Well, it must be because of the aerosols. And so sort of the higher the equilibrium climate sensitivity is, the higher in the opposite direction the masking by aerosols has to be in order to compensate for this this error, this to have them balance out to give us our current warming trajectory. So, the IPCC said something, it's between 0.2 and 1 degree Celsius with a middle point of about a half a degree Celsius. With Hansen's work, it might very well be the better part of a full degree Celsius of implied cooling from aerosols. Which means that as we clean up these sulfate fuels and do a green transition, which by the way is never going to happen, right? Where we have industrial aerosols not being emitted to the extent they are, maybe we'll see a lot more heating coming a lot sooner if the green transition proceeds. Of course, it's not happening in any real sense anyway. So anyway, for now, we're kind of being saved by the aerosols, the Faustian bargain. We are being rescued because we have these aerosols keeping us cooler. And we have a huge cloud of Saharan dust coming over right now. It's going to impact Florida, I don't know, next few days. We have the fires in Canada giving us a lot of ash, and that has some cooling impact. Of course, the ash also is not good for ice. It's going to help the ice melt. Later in the summer, it's reduces the albedo of ice to have the dark ash on it. I'm just talking a lot. Could I give us an estimated? Okay, so this is from Kevin Rauber. Hello, Professor Jacobson's greeting. Could you give us an estimate in warming? You know what I'm going to do? I actually have this very question answered on my website, and I'm going to show you that right now. And maybe I could let's see if I can make this work. Here we go. You ready? Look it, there it is. Can you believe it? I did it. So when you talk about estimated warming, I have a casino background. As you can see, I have a casino background, and I have a background in the casino industry. And for me, whenever you say the temperature, the global temperature is now X, like you hear someone say the global temperature, we are 1.2 C above pre-industrial baseline, and you still hear people saying that, right? We're 1.2 C above the pre-industrial. What does it mean to say we're 1.2 C above pre-industrial? It doesn't mean some long-term average is 1.2 C. It doesn't mean, that we have some formula that we've applied, or the models are predicting, or 10 years past plus 10 years future. What 1.2 C means is that in the absence of any other information about the climate or the weather or the current state of the world, there is a 50-50 chance that any given day will either be above or below 1.2 C. So, if I told you right now that my belief is that next year, 2026, is going to be 1.48 C, right? That's what I think. That's what Eliot thinks. 2026 is going to be 1.48 C, and I say, what does that mean to you? What it means is that I'm predicting that roughly half the days next year will be above that and half will be below it. And any given day is going to be a guess. And if we average all the days together, we should come up with about 1.48. So when you ask about what do I think it's going to be like in 2040 or 2050, these are my numbers, right? I actually have computed this. And so my numbers are that 2040 is exactly 2C. That is going to be the year we hit 2C, which means we could expect the average of all the days to be 2C, which means some will be above and some will be below, but the average will be 2C, and 2050 will be about 2.4. And that's as far as I want to carry these things out. Now, one of the things to be really careful about when you see people sharing data and they show you a curved line, like this is actually accelerated warming. What I have here is accelerated warming. It might not seem like it, but this is not linear. It's slightly faster than linear growth. Whenever someone claims something faster than linear, like exponential or quadratic or accelerating, whatever, make sure that they are not carrying out that prediction too far into the future, because things are happening on this planet that are chaotic, and making any sort of prediction, past that is anything other than linear, past a few decades, is just going into the realm of speculation that doesn't have a lot of solid math behind it. I mean, I don't even like linear, honestly, but at least linear, I can say, okay, I'm probably not overestimating this, right? I'm not saying it's too high. So, as far as temperature is concerned, what might impact it in the next 25 years to make it stop growing? Well, there could be some volcanic impact. There could be some time where China and India really do, start switching away from their coal and towards less polluting sources. There could be, as Zeke Housefather said, when we reach net zero, warming will stop, right? I mean, warming will stop when we reach net zero. Of course, we're not going to reach net zero while humans are still around, but to say warming is stop is to say that this will flatline, right? Not just be accelerating. So there are voices that strongly argue against this. But if you're looking for a wager to make with a friend, this would be the graphic I would advise you look at. And again, it's on my website. It's not Advanced Advantage Play that I have at the bottom. I don't know why I have that at the bottom. I should change that. Okay, I need to find the, hi again. Yeah, okay. William Dillon says the sun's light is not hot until it strikes the surface of your face or earth. Yeah, okay. Yeah, 4C equals a mass die-off. Yeah, actually 1.5 C, where we are roughly right now, equals a mass die-off as well. It's just slower, and certainly corals are dying in mass. So, certain parts of the planet are dying in mass. I mean, the Mediterranean Sea, for example, it's crazy. Thank you all for being here again. Yeah, I'm just rambling. Wife is out of town. I figured out how to do a live stream again. I played a game of chess. What do you think? Was that okay? All right. Let's see. William Dillon says mirror short circuits the light from the sun, preventing it from turning into infrared longer wave event, which is where the heat comes from. It takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the sun's light to reach Earth. The sun's light is not hot until it strikes the surface of your face or the Earth. So Flipped Beer says, what about throwing iron in the ocean and create biomass from CO2 in the water? Easier than planting trees. Worth a shot, or just start drinking hard alcohol. I already drink hard alcohol. Planting trees doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't work for a number of reasons, and it's very interesting that I actually was given a tree. Our city has a tree planting program, and they give them away for free, and who am I not to accept a free tree? And and at the bottom of their email, it's like, help us save the planet by planting trees. And it's like, no. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is some of these mass planting programs, most of the trees die. Other, where they do live, they're sort of a monocolor or a monoculture. And oftentimes the color of the trees being replanted is darker than the canopy that was there before, so actually increasing the albedo. The other thing is that trees are being planted in areas that are drying up, and eventually they'll burn. And because they're taking carbon from the soil, when they burn, they're actually going to release more carbon than would have been released had they not been planted when they burn. I mean, there's a number of reasons trees don't work as any sort of solution. And in the best case scenario, we would need something like, I don't know, what's the number? Between 2 and 3 trillion trees to be planted in order to have any real impact as a carbon sink. It's just not going to happen. And as far as the iron, I don't know about iron, but I just really dislike the idea of messing with the oceans by polluting them more. Just to try and save humanity so that, we could have better iPhones next year. I just don't want to be dumping iron into the ocean. I don't want to, we've already been geoengineering the planet for the last couple hundred years. And you can see where it's got us. I just can't imagine any physical geoengineering, whether it's putting sulfates into the stratosphere or iron into the ocean, as ending up in any sort of situation we want, other than a future termination shock. Sam Wilkinson says January 2025 was 1.75 owing to Copernicus. Actually, let me do something for you there, Sam. That's a good question. So 2025 was certainly less, but here let me just do something here. I'm going to show you just how truly amazing I can be when I know what I'm doing, as opposed to how lame I can be when I don't know what I'm doing. So here's an I know what I'm doing. So here we go. Here's the current monthly global surface temperature, and I've included June with the temperatures to date so that you can see where we are. And I am reading a lot on social media that we are, last year was 1.6 and this year we're still 1.6, or we're still 1.5 or whatever. Truth is, things are not looking great for the apocalyptimists, the people who think the apocalypse is coming this year. They're optimistic we're having an apocalypse. Sorry, it's not working out the way you thought it would. How about that? That makes it even a little bit larger. So you can see that at the start of the year, we were at 1.75 in January, and then 1.6 in February and March, and then April came in at 1.5, and then May came in at below 1.4, and right now June looks like it's going to come in below 1.3. So my original over-under for 2025, way back at the beginning of 2024, when I was predicting a full year ahead, was 1.48. I updated that to 1.52 after the extremes we saw last year, but it's looking like 1.48 might be more accurate. It actually is looking sort of like by the end of the year, there's sort of a 50-50 chance we will be over or below 1.48 C for the year as, a temperature. These are, by the way, taken from Copernicus data, not Berkeley Earth or any of the other sources. So they tend to run a little bit hotter overall compared to the other models anyway. So look at that. Something I was able to do, answer a question by pulling up a graphic. Wow. As opposed to what William Dillon asked me to do, which was show him a picture of my shingles. I guess what I'd have to do is go out and take a picture. Then I'd have to email it to myself, copy it to my desktop, drop it into my browser, and then I could show it to you. But I'm not going to do all that stuff. Let's see, Sam Wilkinson again, cascading positive feedback loops triggered. I agree. I mean, yes, they have been triggered, cascading positive. I mean, we have so many feedbacks going on right now. So the one that I'm watching this year, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but the National Sea Ice Data Center is losing access to data by the end of the month. So there are two main data sources for sea ice. One is the US and the other is from Japan. And my understanding is that the Japanese data set, the JAXA, J-A-X-A, may piggyback on some US technology. And if that's the case, we're actually going to lose complete all access other than sort of photographic images and estimates based on that to sea ice and sea volume and for either pole. So we won't know whether we're at a record or not. For the record, right now we are at a record low or near record low for Arctic sea ice for the day. So if one is wondering whether we may hit a new record low this September, so far we're on track for that, but this is the high melting season, and during the melting season there are a lot of sort of chaotic impacts between winds and storms and cloud cover and fog, as it turns out, other things that can impact melting sort of regionally in small little parts of the Arctic that might tend to melt otherwise, or globally in terms of the melting. So it's yet to be seen whether we're going to have some horrible event in the Arctic happen this year. Okay, how are you doing? Is this all right? Is this, you guys having fun with this? I don't know. Peppermint tea, by the way. I have to tell you, I stopped drinking coffee earlier this year. And this is what I take rather than coffee now. It does not taste nearly as good as coffee. But one day I woke up and I didn't like coffee anymore. It's not that I had any impacts. I can see my tones are red. So Bobber T says, my own anecdotal data is from the Midwest. The state of Minnesota homeowner insurance lost money for 4 or 5 years in a row due to flooding in the south and fires in the north. Yeah, I mean, that's why insurance is nationalized. I mean, you can't always expect every region to pay for itself. I mean, clearly the insurance market in Los Angeles is not going to have sufficient funds to pay for the damages in Los Angeles, or, that's just not reasonable. So where are the really dangerous places to live right now? Well, anywhere along the Gulf Coast because of hurricanes, anywhere in parts of California, up through the Sierras out to the coast because of fires. Of course, Oregon, huge with fires. Washington State, huge with fires. We saw a big fire in Colorado last year, so that could happen. We can have these tornadoes and flooding rains going on storm after storm after storm throughout the Midwest. I like to follow that information a lot of times. There's this YouTube station called Ryan Hall Y'all that I'll watch watch the weather to see what's happening. There are 2 accounts on social media you can follow: Extreme Weather Around the World and Volcaholic, that both will post about these things. So yeah, I don't think there is ultimately going to be a safe place, a safe haven, but we are where we are, right? We're wherever we are. Yeah, hi, Gweet Art 47, long time no here. I know it's my first live stream in quite a while. Bobber T, you are a prophet and a mensch. I have stayed with the simple numbers and graphs. Everything else is conjecture and leads to a meaningless debate. The temperatures are rising. Um, so Rees Cat Ophel says, have I got a land-only version of this graph? 2025 is still super hot for the land. I don't, and that's a really good point. I mean, here's the thing about the oceans, right? We have these La Nina, El Nino cycles, right? So those have major impacts on sea surface temperatures. And right now there's like a mini La Nina off of the coast of Africa that, shouldn't even be named that, but it is. And we're kind of in a neutral semi La Nina state, maybe heading back into a La Nina right now. So the oceans that cover, the vast majority of the planet are much cooler than average right now, or that they had been in the previous years. So because of that, we are averaging all of those numbers to get a global surface temperature. We are sort of being overweighted by these cool temperatures on the oceans. Meanwhile, there are two oceans that are very, very hot, and it's because they're sort of landlocked away from this mixing that's going on. And those two are the Mediterranean and the Gulf of Mexico. And of course, maybe parts around Indonesia as well, I should mention, are extremely hot right now. But in particular, because the Mediterranean is seeing record heat, we're getting heat waves that are this heat is moving up into Europe. They're saying that, Southern Europe is going to become North Africa in just a few years. So the land temperatures in Southern Europe through Portugal, even into the UK, are crazy hot, right? And that heat is being driven by these extraordinarily hot temperatures in the Mediterranean, 6 degrees Celsius above the long-term average there. And likewise, the Gulf of Mexico is extraordinarily hot. And so you have, it is setting a record, all-time record as far as measurements go. And so you have these natural sort of low pressure systems that come through that, because of the direction of the system, it pulls up heat and moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, which is available in record quantities, both the heat and the moisture, and as a consequence we get these record rainstorms happening in the Midwest, and we get the record high temperatures along the East Coast, and expect that to continue all summer. There's no reason that this should stop, that we should expect in Europe this year a record summer temperatures, and at least in the middle to the eastern part of the U.S., record summer temperatures. I don't know about the western U.S. It's not experiencing the same dynamic just because of sea surface temperatures. There's going to be other dynamics in play, but at least when you ask the question, the difference between ocean temperatures and land temperatures, the answer is yes. Right? We live on land. We don't live in ocean. Oceans are cool right now overall, except for some regional locations. So yeah, land may be correspondingly even hotter than average. And I would love to see that graphic. Maybe somebody can point that out. So Reese Cat Ufel says, Ryan Hall normally studiously avoids talking climate, but even he put this the "this is fine" meme for the recent heat wave. Yeah, I mean, he is where does he live? Somewhere in the South, Alabama or Texas or Oklahoma or something. A great YouTube channel on weather, but obviously he wants to stay politically neutral. He is routinely seeing 100,000 people plus on his live streams, and so, yeah. So let's see what else is going on. It's not the Gulf of America, Ramona. It's not the Gulf of America. I renamed it the Gulf of Karankawa. Karankawa was a native tribe that lived along the Texas Gulf Coast. The Texas Gulf Coast. And someone mentioned that Karankawa meant lover of dogs or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's lover of wolves, or maybe they had dogs. I don't know exactly where the name came from. But when this whole debate came along, it just seemed to me that both are equally arrogant. Gulf of Mexico and Gulf of America are equally arrogant. It is a gulf that should be named, if we're going to name it after any civilization, it should be after the oldest identifiable civilization that sort of made that their home, right? And so Karankawa just sounded right to me. So going forward, let's all call it the Gulf of Karankawa with an asterisk, Mexico, and forget about the America part of that. Okay, should I have another one of these later today? I don't know. Maybe I'll have a drinking party. Maybe I'll figure out how to have somebody else stream with me. I don't know how to do that. Maybe I'll figure out how to take a picture on my phone and post it. JS says, I think migrations into Europe and the US, Canada will be a major problem over the coming decades. A frightened population versus an outside threat could lead to an authoritarian politics. Yeah, and I agree on that. And, let me just bring up an article that I wrote on my blog that I think is really an important article, because we so often, think about this or that impact as being somehow the one that, hang on, I think I need to make this wider. That didn't quite work, did it? That widened it right into my neck of the woods. Yeah, hang on. I need to just do something here. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to go to this thing. I'm going to go to my filters. I'm going to go to hang on, everybody. All right. I think that should work now. Yeah, learning how to do this stuff in real time is me. All right, so you're witnessing top 40 impacts of climate change. I have this article on my blog. If you watch the news, right? You watch the news, you see this stuff over and over and over again, and it's kind of crazy making because yeah, these are all actual things that you read about. And you're thinking, but that's climate change. Oh, but that's climate change. Oh, but that's climate change, right? So acid rain and algae blooms and ash and smoke and the death of insects, bees in particular. And you see number 5 there is climate refugees and migration, right? Obviously, when parts of the planet become uninhabitable, those people who live there are going to try and move somewhere else. And in particular, North Africa is becoming uninhabitable, and so Europe is the natural place to try and migrate to. And so we have, an attempt already of mass migration, which leads to sort of nationalism and closing borders and retaliation against, migrants. It's one of the things that is currently happening because of climate change, and certainly some of the people who come to the U.S. are climate refugees, whether they're from a country that does or doesn't have a fascist government, whether it's parts of Venezuela or Guatemala, or Chile or somewhere else, that is having an impact due to climate that's making where those people live simply uninhabitable, and they head north, right? So, but yeah, this list has so many things on it that are just happening right now. And for some of these that are kind of rare, I actually have links so that you can see, where they came from. A lot of the uber doomers point to nuclear plant meltdown as somehow that's what's going to cause extinction of humanity. That's why we're all going to go extinct. Once we have the blue ocean event, and we have catastrophic heating and we have people moving away from the coast because of sea level rise. You know, we're not going to have people left who can man the nuclear plants. They're all going to melt down. It's going to release radiation that'll make the Earth sterile for thousands of years. Yeah, okay, that's a nightmare. But you know, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, enjoy this. There's a lot here to look through, and when you pick one particular thing, you know, the answer is yes. I actually have a longer list that has, I think, 78 different consequences of climate change that I sort of condensed down to that list of 40. So there's a lot that's happening. Okay, it is my lunchtime, friends. I will see how I feel later today, but if anything, this has definitely inspired me to do these again. So hopefully I was not too inarticulate. Hopefully I wasn't wrong about too many things, you know, because I'm a professor. What do you like that? I put that in my essay, right? We professors make stuff up. I try not to make very much stuff up, but you know, sometimes it just feels like something has to be the case, and so you say it, and then you're like, yeah, I now in retrospect, I made that up. But I think it's all is good today. I don't think I did that very much. So, all right, everybody, this is Eliot Jacobson saying so long.